Welcome to the Lifeline, a production of Simply BJE. The goal of this podcast is to build, inspire, and to empower our listeners through conversations on business, leadership, and mental health. We invite you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and at www.simplybje.com/the Lifeline. Now, let's tune in for today's episode. Top of the day, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Lifeline. We're your hosts, life coach and motivational speaker, Bo Powell, social media influencer and owner of the For Real brand, Lindsberg Petway, and yours truly, leadership coach and mental health advocate, Barry J. Elliott. You can visit us at www.simplybje.com/The Lifeline and on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and now YouTube. Tonight we have a lover of God, devoted husband, and proud father of four children, an entrepreneur, Ralph Walker. He is the host of Focusing on the Soul of the Entrepreneur with Ralph Walker podcast. He empowers entrepreneurs to prioritize faith, healing, and self-awareness on their journey to success. Welcome to the Lifeline podcast, Mr. Walker. How are you today?
I'm doing well, man. How are you guys?
We're good.
Welcome.
Man, glad to have you, brother.
I'm
Yes,
glad
sir.
to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Our pleasure, man. So we're going to get this party started.
So, Ralph, I know you personally, and I know what you can do because you are one of the flagships behind my brand. I think I met you over 6 years ago, and we had a conversation, and that conversation really changed my life and put me on the path that I am on today. So tell us a little bit about your business, your branding, and I'm open to you sharing how you captivated my brand and asked me that one question. What do you want For Real to be? And that question kind of changed the dynamic of where I am today.
Man, well, first off, Ralph Walker Designs, that whole business has turned into more of a coaching space now, even within business, but also personal. And that's why we kind of came with the whole podcast of Focusing on the Soul of the Entrepreneur, because I get into conversations with my clients, just like I've had plenty of conversations with you, and we end up talking about family. We end up talking about where we think life is going, the whole nine. And we start circling around that whole question. What I ask you is what do you see for the brand? But that question is really what you see for yourself. And I ask that question a lot to everyone, because it's like one of the last things that entrepreneurs, when they're getting started, they think about. Most entrepreneurs, when they get into those spaces, they're immediately just thinking about the success of the business and the product itself. And if they do get to the space of what is it all about, they don't know who they're talking to when they're saying it.
Right.
And it causes even more questions. It's like, man, like, who am I talking to? But then it's like, well, I'm talking to everybody. You can't talk to everybody. It's just not possible. Who are you put here on this earth to talk to? Who are you put on this earth to communicate to? And that's the space I don't want to get too deep so quick, but that happens sometimes when people ask me certain questions. I just go straight in. But that's the space I try to train the mind to start thinking about, because I believe this. In Lindsberg, you're in the people serving industry, right? And I think that anyone who gets into business without thinking about serving, you're in the wrong place.
That's good.
Your whole identity and your basis of what you're doing has to be based off of serving and what you can do for people. Otherwise, you won't be a help, because at that point, all you're doing is serving yourself.
Right.
And so once I get people minds to go into a different place of figuring out what the brand is doing and who they're serving, then we can talk other places. But we got to start there first, and then that way we can create communication from that space. I hope I just didn't go too far, but
No,
yeah,
no, that was structurally
You
well.
good, man.
What it really sounds like is that you help people to find their voice and or identify their voice. That's what it
one
sounds like.
100%. It's 100% based off identity.
Yeah.
And I was literally, I seen the questions when you sent me those questions over before, and I was talking to my wife, and I said, when you really live this, when you really live it, your life becomes a study of it. You don't
Right.
have to
Right.
Mm.
prepare for it anymore. You come in ready. You are already it. Like
Right. Right. Right.
I'm not nervous because I'm that already. Like I'm solidified within this. I study this. I've garnered whatever is necessary to become that in that space. For the lack of better words, I'm him with that.
Right.
And so when it comes to identity, I can speak clear about branding and how to build an identity and what it takes to to create something that is for your consumers to love.
No, that's good. Why do you think it's important for leaders to take branding seriously, and or how serious should leaders or business owners take the branding aspect of their business?
Can I give you something different on that?
Sure, by all means.
I believe in the near future that everyone is going to need a personal brand.
Mm, mm,
Even a regular 9 to 5 job, to get a regular 9 to 5 job, you're gonna have a personal brand.
Yeah.
You know at one point where your social media was used kind of against you for
Right.
getting a job.
Now they look at it
Your social media is not gonna be used to get you a job
to get
yes,
you a
sir.
job. Yeah.
because they're gonna see what level of influence you can push on their customers to garner them more business.
Yeah.
So, in other words, everyone's going to have to turn into a sales representative at some point, like
Right.
because AI is taking all the actual mechanical side of things. But one thing AI can't do is create relationships,
Right.
and so and give that actual human touch, that human feel. So, so when it comes to branding, I say this all the time because so many people run straight to a logo. Your logo should be like the very last thing you probably should come up with. That's everybody is just like, oh, I need to get me a logo to start my business. Go get an LLC, get a logo, and I'm ready to start my business. Like you have to, in building a brand, you have to create it first, and what that means is you have to create what you want them to feel.
Mm,
You you you
mm,
your brand is, so I always say this, is that your logo is for you to love as the owner, because one thing is Nike didn't come ask you about your opinion on Nike. Starbucks didn't come ask you. The person who made that suit, they didn't ask you what you thought about the logo. Cartier didn't ask you what you thought about the C's. They create the logo, and then they create the brand for you with you in mind. They said, I wanted this. They came up with the demographics of the brand. They said, I want this type of person. When they engage with with Cartier, I want them to feel this way. When they engage with this type of car, I want them to have this type of income. This is created for a specific person, right? This isn't created for everyone. And so when you create your brand, you have to create your brand with a focus in mind. And a lot of times we don't do that because we're scared of shutting people out. So
mm.
when and so with, and it's not to say that they can't do it. It's just that there's a little bit of like a classism within branding, and
Yeah.
people like I'm a believer in classism. Some people say it's bad. I believe it's real, and I think everybody's a part of it. They just don't accept it. But there's a level of classism in every form. Let's just say this. I know I'm skipping ahead. Here we go. Let's just say this, guys. let's say you buy a $500,000 home. Are you okay with a $60,000 home being right across the street from it?
Not at all.
That's classism.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And it's so, but that's exactly what happens in brands too. Like we create spaces for certain demographics, high, low, medium, wherever it is. No space is bad. It's just that you directly know what area you want to affect.
Right.
And when you know that, that's how effective you can become. So yes, I believe that a personal brand or branding is extremely important when you do it with those things in mind.
Now you said two things that caught my attention. Number one is that at some point you believe everyone needs a brand. And I think that is so necessary in business and with sport.
I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm
Okay.
here.
With sports, and I look at how colleges recruit players, and now with this NIL opportunities, the more people you have following you at such a young age is the more opportunity for you to become recruited by that school, get playing time, and also get these NIL deals. But you also did say something where you say you have to shut people out. And that's kind of hard when you just starting out because you want to be able to sell to everyone. And that's the mindset. I need to sell to Barry, to buy. I need anybody who wants to buy it to buy it. But why is it so important to just separate and find your lane?
You don't want to waste your time.
Okay.
You don't want to waste your time. It's like, and the best way to put it is like dealing with like real estate and cars, right? If this person can only afford a $30,000 car, but you're trying to sell them an $80,000 Corvette or $100,000 Corvette, not only are you wasting your time, but you're wasting their time too.
Right.
When you know your customer, you know how to communicate properly to them. You know how they react. You know how they react to decision making. And one of the things that so when I first got started with my web design business, I was doing like $500 websites. And then I got tired of the $500 websites, obviously, because at that point with $500 websites, you're garnering a certain level of customer with that, right?
Man,
And
I wish
that's
I had a caught the $500.
it wouldn't have been good. You wouldn't have been happy. uh, but you garner a certain customer with that. Okay. And then so I said, well, what do I need to do? Who I need to become to start selling at least a $5,000 website? And then one of the things I learned was that a person who's spending $5,000 and has $5,000 extra in their account, where if they spend it, they're okay. That person, nine times out of 10 at that time, that person has probably went to school. And so because they probably went to school and they're are entrepreneurs, they probably read in bullet points. They probably want to read actual contracts. They probably want to read exactly what deliverables are coming. And so I knew how I understood that documentation was extremely important at that point. So I started creating documents around my process. That was another thing. It's process. Though a person at that level would expect to understand what your process is. At $600, all they hear is $600. Oh, you want $300 right now? I give you $300. Go do your thing and bring it back to me. But when I ask for 5,000, they're gonna say, okay, what are my deliverables? What's my timeline? What's the what? Let me see your invoice. Can you send me over an invoice? I'm not sending you over a Word document. I'm actually sending you a real invoice. I'm sending you an email with ralphwalkerdesigns.com, not at Gmail. So there's all those little things. When you come into my office, I'm giving you Fiji water. Listen, the Fiji water thing was a big deal when I brought customers in my office. That was a big deal. Like they loved the Fiji water. That right there alone just almost closed deals every single time. But those
Wow.
those things, just those little details of having my customer in mind. Now I'm building a brand now. This is the space of what you do to build the brand. I'm create documentation, all the background work for my clients so that they can feel comfortable. So when I ask them for the $5,000 dollars for the website baseline, now you can feel comfortable at the next level. Now, when I call you in 30 days to check on you to see what's going on, how you feeling, do you need anything? You're okay with giving me another $1,000 or whatever it may be that come from the change that you may see on your website. So now I'm really creating a space where when you call, I pick up the phone. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten new clients just off the fact that I picked up the phone.
Yeah, that's huge. That's
It's
one of the reasons why.
huge.
That's one of the reasons why I stay with you. I mean, you're in Georgia, and I'm here. And when I have an issue, I know you're busy because I see your life, but I text you, and within 24 hours, you're back to me, and that means a lot coming from the owner. And you have so many other things, and I've been with you over 5 to 7 years. I
Mhm.
lost count, but you still treat me as a day one customer, and
I
that's
still
huge.
treat you as a day one customer, and
Yeah,
it's I call it hand holding. Like I'm forever hand holding my clients, just because of the fact that you didn't have to spend your money with me. You could have did it with somebody else, and I know that this industry is already tricky enough with people doing things that aren't the best aren't in the best of the decision of the customer. So you got customer you got and then on top of that, like web designers as a whole, they don't communicate good. They only talk to computers good, so they don't really talk to humans well. And I knew that about this industry, so that I made that a priority is that I communicated. And I learned to not be afraid to pick up the phone. I learned not to be afraid to answer the phone, not get frustrated because oh, someone's calling me. Hey, we got an issue. Let me figure it out. I'm sorry. Let's figure it out. I see. I've been on the phone with Lindbergh at 11 o'clock at night one time trying to figure out what was going on with his SSL certificate. But that's how far I go.
yeah,
I don't. I
Stuff.
it doesn't matter how much money he spent. I don't think he was spending anything at that time. But he was having an issue. I know how important his business is, and that's another thing too. I understand how important Lensberg's brand is to him.
yeah.
I have over 100 clients with web design still. I don't market it. I don't even accept new projects. If you're my client, you're my client, and that's one thing that I'm with him. That he's
Yeah.
my guy. I can't just hand him off to somebody. That wouldn't be right. Like what is somebody else is going to just treat him like a number.
Right, right.
So who's ever with me is with me, and I'm gonna figure out something to make sure that they still get that same level of customer service. But I know I'm growing. I know I'm growing in different directions and all those things. But these people are the reason why I'm even doing what I'm even doing right now. Anyway.
Man, you're saying a whole lot, Brother Walker. And for those, I'm saying that in a good way because for people who are paying attention, they can hear some of the things that if they can see that some of the things you're doing is part of the branding, what it takes to be a build a great brand. But for those of who are still trying to just they need it more succinct. If someone's trying to build a brand, maybe a business owner or something like that, what are some like the key critical components for effective brand development and for brand recognition more than anything? Because a lot of people are trying to build a brand. I think every more people are trying to have come into the knowledge that a brand is necessary, but some people do it better than others. So, what are some key things people need to focus on in order to develop their brand and get that brand out there for people to see it and recognize it?
Okay. So the cool part is we're in a day and age where we have social media, right? And we always got to think about this. Find one. Okay, let's go back to step one. So after you've already figured out, um, you gotten the business side of things done. You've gotten uh, any contracts, any paperwork, all that stuff already prepared for your client. You got all that stuff done, right? Now you're at the marketing side, right? Now you're getting ready to market. This is where the real branding side comes into play. you have to be willing to talk, and not only talk, but then give quality information. And when you get to that point, you have to be consistent at it at the next point. A lot of people talk one day and then stop talking tomorrow. No, this you have to want to do this. And it's even like with this podcast thing that I love this podcast stuff. Like I can legit do this for free. This is really fun. I must admit, like I'm having a great time doing the podcast. And one thing it is that I figured out ways to um I figured out ways to continue to be consistent without so much time being lost in the performance of the consistency. Does that make sense? I'm gonna break it down. So the thing is when the reason why people have a hard time being consistent is because they have a hard time creating the content in order to be consistent. But what needs to happen is you need to create a schedule around your postings. You need to create a schedule around your creativity time. You need to create a schedule around how often you post. And the reason being is this: if you post, and when I say, let's say we take a podcast for an example, right? And we're on a podcast, and you create a new form of content, long form of content once a week, and you post on Fridays, you need to be consistent about making sure you post on Fridays and that you have short initial contents during the week. You don't have to post 3 and 4 and 5 times a day like people tell you to. That's content overload. You know, you got to give people a moment to digest everything you put out. And so, and then within that is just the quality of content. We are in a day and age where iPhones have the good cameras. We're in a day and age where you can take a picture, but how are you going over and beyond to give a better resolution of your product? And those are the things that matter when you're building a quality platform. When you're putting out quality content, what are you doing to invest in the content that you can be consistent in and be happy with? And that's so along with quality subject. So you're giving out some good quality. Lensberg, I see you putting out your stuff with the with the dealership for Real Brand.
Right.
And it's good stuff. I'm learning about what I should and shouldn't do.
Right.
And that's why for a time, Lensberg, I had to excuse myself off of your Facebook because you were getting blown up, man. I was getting all your notifications, man. Like I'm like he posts something and everybody just running to his stuff comments. I'm like, dude, I can't get all these notifications. I'm not answering back. So I found a way to get myself. This is when I was doing your ads for you. So I was still logged in. I'm just like, dude, I can't keep getting this man's ads. Like, and I couldn't figure out how to
take it
how to
off.
exit
Yeah.
myself off. And I finally figured it out. I'm so happy, man. You were getting blown up. But that's because people are engaging because of the quality of content. Right? You don't have to have this super media company to go and do this. Like you just need to have a plan. And so, yes, start with the plan. Start with figuring out who you're talking to, figuring out who your ideal customer is. And then when you figure that out, it's not that nobody else can come to you, it's just that you know who your customer is. So when they walk through the door, you already know how to react to your customer because you know how your customer is. You know how your customer talk. You know how they walk. You know how what keywords they say. You know that whole deal. And so when you don't know that, you have a hard time actually marketing to that potential person. So figuring out who you're marketing to is what's going to help you build your brand.
So that's good. And you were getting all those notifications because one, I was boosting posts, and then I was taking the time to engage once they engaged to keep it going. And people understand it takes time to make content. When I first started with TikTok and Instagram, I was doing 50 reels a month. So 2 weeks, we were doing at least 3 hours each day, just creating content. And then it was scheduled to be put out, and I still follow the schedule 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. So right now, my alarm rings, bing, I find content, I post it. So that goes to my next question for you. Once you find out your market, you know who you're marketing to, you know what your client is saying, you know what they're doing. How important is it for them to be able to believe in you? And I think that's why you understand why For Real is so um, personable to me, because I'm for real and that's my brand. So, and I want people to believe that and answer that. How important is that when you're branding that people really believe in what you're doing?
So it's very important. I mean, in order for somebody, it was so crazy. Someone called me and right before this episode, and they had told me, he said, "Man, I just love how authentic you are. When I see your videos, I know how I believe I you heard this term real recognize real.
Yeah.
I believe God created us because we were uniquely created to have communication to a direct person. The way we walk, the way we dress, the way we look, the way we take care of our bodies, the way uh we say certain things is going to communicate directly to someone that's going to be attracted to that. And when you are authentically you, when you're developing your personal brand, you don't have to pretend to be somebody else. So whoever's attracted to you is attracted to you. And so because it's you, the person who's supposed to work with you is going to work with you because they already are attracted to who you are. Does that make sense? Like the believing part, the believing part is when they connect to your authenticness. When they connect to what you say and how you say of your delivery on whatever said topic is. And so that's why I always tell people, I'm like, man, you at this point, man, we all better pick careers that we gonna really want to love and be doing, that we could see ourselves doing for the rest of our lives. I had a hard at one point, I get the identity crisis thing with building a brand too, because you can go into a room and talk to somebody and feel like, oh, they putting on, they're not really being themselves. And that, I don't care how big a corporation is, when you get into a room, you're not dealing with the corporation, you're dealing with people. And so you have to be as authentic as possible. And not authentic doesn't mean that you're not professional. And I think people get that kind of twisted too. It's just that you feel whatever I'm giving off, like this is genuine. You can tell that the way I speak and how passionate I am about what I'm talking about, that this is what I kind of live for. This is like, this feels good. Right. And which also permeates all to you too. Like you feel it too. Like, and so when it comes to the belief, that comes out of how you present the product. And so at the end of the day, it's not that I'm trying to get someone to believe. I just take time in perfecting my my craft, so I don't have to worry about whether you believe or not. It's just gonna happen, whether you want to buy today or not. That's a whole nother question. But as far as your belief, you're gonna believe regardless, because of me perfecting my craft every day, me taking my time to better myself, me taking my time to better what I do. The time you feel that stuff.
One of the things you mentioned earlier, Brother Walker, saw some people in the web design business at that time, how they didn't really know how to connect, relate, um, and bring that level of excellence to their clientele. I think most business owners know, there's one thing with brand believability, but it's the credibility of the brand that's really I think that's the most important. So talk to us a little bit about, in this day and age, about why, brand credibility is like of utmost importance. I mean, you can have a brand, but I mean, credibility, if that goes out the window, I mean, so talk to us about how important that is for your brand to be credible at the end of the day.
I got a question for you, Brother Powell. What's
Yeah.
what's your favorite brand that you today you have no questions about it? If it's time for you to go shopping, where are you going?
As far as a brand, any brand,
Yeah,
I love
your
Nike.
brand though. You said Nike?
I like Nike. You're asking what brand I like?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Nike. Nike's one
Why
that come to mind real quick.
why does Nike connect with you so much?
One, I love the product. Their shoes have always been great for me. Every time I bought a shoe, I've never burst a shoe. They've always performed like I thought they was going to perform. They've been comfortable. Plus, I'm a big Michael Jordan fan, so um,
So there you go. So
yeah,
you just answered it right there. Is because
yeah.
what they said they were going to do, they did. One of my favorite brand right now, and when I say my favorite brand, and I don't wear anything else, is Lululemon.
That's
And
different.
the thing is, the reason why I stand by Lululemon, Lululemon and Costco, those are my two favorite places, right? those were two favorite places. But I stand by Lululemon because of the fact that how they stand by their clothes. So my wife, and this is how I got, because at first I was like, I'm not spending that much money on clothes. It's just not happening, bro. These are like athleisure clothes. I'm just not doing it. But one of the things that was showed me was when my wife had an issue with her pants, she had them for like a couple years. They took them back and they sold them up, and they sold them up one time, and then they gave her a brand new pair the other time.
Wow.
They stand by their product, and that's the whole point right there. That's where the credibility comes from. Is you standing by your product. Apple is another one of my favorite products, and I get
Me too.
they're on my
Yes,
bad
me
list.
too.
They're on my bad list right now, but
But
I stand by them. You
yeah, they
know,
have great products
Great
that we
product.
use, telephones, MacBook,
Yeah,
everything.
all
Some
that good
people
stuff.
don't
Right.
use them yet, but they,
Mr.
Yeah,
Apple.
Elliott, you making
everybody's
me
not
feel like
saved. And
you
Oh,
making me
they're
feel
coming for me. These two devils are
Yeah,
coming for me on this
yeah.
podcast.
Somebody
They are.
doesn't use Apple.
you looking like you don't got no Apple in their house. You see these two home pods behind me, sir. You see these AirPod Max Pros on my head, sir. You no, I'm just kidding. No, I can go all day with that. Like just
they're good, man.
the brand quality, we they stand by it. I
They
listen,
do.
man. We can listen. We can argue right now if you want to about it.
No, he
I'm
has
just
he has
like,
no
Well, I'm
argument.
apostolic, bro. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
I'm too stubborn to argue. As far as I'm
Okay.
concerned, the
Okay.
Apple is connected to the Antichrist. So I'm not, so it's
Man,
cool.
I done
See,
heard that
see,
so many times.
you
That's
know
so
what I mean?
wild.
Hey, be ye in the world, but not of the world.
There
It
you
all
go,
is.
man. Listen, they said
Come on,
they said,
man.
did you
It
see
all
that?
is.
Did you see they got an apple and it's bitten out of? I'm just like, oh Jesus Christ. Ah man.
Hey, it all is until they bow that knee. So what we gonna do?
Yeah, man. But yes, at the end of the day, it's just about how a brand stands by their product. That's what
Right,
builds the quality. That's what builds. I always say it's not about the mess up. It's about how you overcome the mess up as a
Yeah,
company.
right,
We all make
yeah,
mistakes,
right.
yeah.
but it's just about when someone comes to you and complain about your product, do you say, well, you passed your 30 days, you got to go about your business?
Right.
No, man. I've had a pair of AirPods, and they it was 2 years I had them, and they said that there was a glitch inside my particular. They came and they told me to bring my stuff in and get a new pair.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How do you not stand by it? Like, how do you not be like, okay, I'm gonna spend this $200. I know that other companies are selling it for cheaper, but how do you not stand by that? And how do you not want that? So those are the things that that moved me is a place of just standing behind your product after someone has it in their hands.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on that because, when you talk about credibility, you know, when you make mistakes, I mean, credibility can be taken away in a moment. I mean, you can do the right thing 100 times out of 101, and that one time you make a mistake, if you don't handle it correctly, you don't
Yep.
own up to it, and that's part of just being integrity. Hey, we messed up, let's replace it. So I'm glad you touched on that because I was going to ask you about just how volatile credibility can be. And it is. So, man, we appreciate so much you being on our podcast and sharing about brand. Little do you know, I was just, what you gave was golden,
Oh wow.
just golden. So that's something this year I've been working on, is just rebranding and stuff like that. So this has just been right on time for me. So, but before we close the podcast, man, let everybody know, how they can connect with you, your website, email address, social media handles, all that.
So Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, it's all I am Ralph Walker. Website is ralphwalker.com. And YouTube, Ralph Walker, FOSE. Those were the podcast is at right now, and that's what I'm focusing on. And as and yeah, that's pretty much it, man. That's all my handles right there.
You mentioned, I know you do the podcast,
Uh-huh.
but one of the things you mentioned before we started the podcast tonight, you said you were kind of more into coaching.
Yeah.
So I know you don't really take on projects for web design or anything, but what do you services do you offer? And so people can know what to look for and how they can connect with you and take advantage of your services.
So right now, because I'm building out the branding side of just Ralph Walker as me right now, I do
Okay.
have this workbook called the six figure action plan workbook.
Yeah.
And it's for free. And it's basically giving people I have this episode called Stuck at the Start. And I know a lot of people get stuck at at the start. They get the idea, they're motivated, and then the gas just runs out, and they don't know what to do next. This workbook, called the Six Figure Action Plan Workbook, is going to help you get that motivation back, because now it's going to be writing it down, and it's going to give you questions in each section. And once you figure that out, it would either give you a 6-figure company or even a 7-figure company. Figure it out just in this one plan. It's not a business plan. I think business plans are just too far in advance. Action plan is right now. What are we doing right now to get us to the next place? And once you have that, you can figure out your. I've never done a business plan. I've always done action plans.
I
know how to do them. I've seen it. I'm with it. I think business plans are really good for you trying to get a loan and all that good stuff. But your action plan, what are you getting ready to do? What do you need to do? That's what you need to start at. And then once you have that, then we can do that stuff. But this part right here will tell you, this action book, this workbook will tell you if you have a 6-figure business or a 7-figure business, or even more of a, depending upon where you can scale it at. But if you fill the book out, you'll be able to know exactly where you're gonna go with your business.
You can get that book.
Yeah. So if you go to Instagram, you go to I am Ralph Walker, and you just DM me action plan, I can send it to you for free. And I have 2 workbooks, one for services and one for products, because it's two different styles of building your business when you have a service-based business or a product-based business. So yeah.
Good, man. Thank you so much. Well, to our listeners, this concludes another episode of The Lifeline with your host, BJE, Lynnsburg Petway, and Bo Powell. Now, don't forget to check us out at www.simplybje.com/The Lifeline. And you can catch us on social media. Look, we're on a mission. We want to bring light and life into your household. So join us and let us hear your feedback, because it's all about bringing life to you on The Lifeline. Y'all take care.
Thank you for listening to today's episode with host, business expert, and life coach Bo Powell, social media influencer and entrepreneur Lynnsburg Petway, and leadership coach and mental health advocate Barry J. Elliott. Join us next week for another impactful conversation on The Lifeline. God bless.